If you wake up and your first thought is, "That's not right, you should listen." I didn't. I just grabbed my phone and scrolled like every other morning, watching my thumb flick through dumb videos while my brain stayed on autopilot. But there was something off today. The neighbor's dog wasn't barking. The street out front, always buzzing by now, was dead silent, except for this weird cough echoing somewhere down the block. Even the sun coming in through my blinds felt wrong. Too gray, too cold, too much like a hospital room. It was a Wednesday. I had work at 8 a.m. at the FedEx hub, sorting boxes for people I'd never meet. My roommate Kyle was already gone, which was strange. He usually left his nasty bowl in the sink, but the kitchen was spotless. I tried to text him, "Are you alive?" and got nothing. Shrugged it off. Told myself he was just in a mood. Or maybe he was actually on time for once. Walking out to my car, I caught something weird at the corner. A dark green army van, way too big for the street, just idling in front of the Mitchell's house. I recognized one of the guys who gets paid to wander around with an M16 and a face like a cinder block. He was leaning against the bumper, looking like he'd been up all night. His boots were muddy, which made no sense because we hadn't had rain in weeks. I waved. He didn't wave back. I got in my car, but when I started the engine, I saw something on my windshield. 3 reddish smears, like someone with a bloody hand had tried to wipe the glass. Not a full handprint, just 3 streaks, fresh enough to be sticky. I checked my phone, half expecting to see some crazy Amber Alert or police update, but all I saw was a new meme in the group chat and an out-of-place Amber Alert from a state I'd never visited. I used my sleeve to wipe the smears, drove off anyway. At work, the warehouse was half empty. My boss, Tasha, kept blowing her nose and trying to joke about the new COVID, but her eyes looked wild, and every time someone coughed, everyone else flinched. I spent the whole shift distracted, checking my phone every few minutes. Texts went through, but the replies stopped coming. By 11 a.m., the Wi-Fi at the hub died. By noon, my service bars were gone too. Every screen in the break room was showing the same red banner. Emergency broadcast, stay inside. Virus spreading. Nobody was panicking yet, not really. You get enough fake news alerts and weird Twitter scares, you start to ignore it all. But Tasha locked herself in her office and called her mom. I heard her crying through the door. I tried to call my brother. He lives 2 hours away, has a wife and a kid. No answer. My texts to Kyle were stuck on delivered. Everyone around me was doing the same thing. Texting, staring at their screens, looking at the doors. One guy, Mike, started to joke that it was all just a drill, but he shut up fast when the phone lines cut out and the landline went dead. Somebody yelled, "The army's outside!" We all went to the loading dock and watched 3 Humvees roll by, slow as funeral cars. Soldiers looking out with faces hidden behind glass. Nobody waved. Nobody smiled. I saw a guy in a hazmat suit walk into the 7-Eleven across the street and come out dragging someone who looked dead. People started running. I stood there, frozen. That's when I realized the air tasted like metal and my hands were shaking. I left work without clocking out, drove home and found Kyle's car in the driveway, but no sign of him in the house. My phone buzzed with one last emergency push. Lock doors, stay inside, await further instructions. I grabbed food, water, and my dad's old Louisville Slugger from under the bed. I checked every lock in the house. The silence outside got heavier. No traffic, no barking. Somewhere in the distance, I heard someone scream, sharp and fast, then nothing. I pushed the couch against the front door. My heart was pounding. I still thought maybe it was overblown. Maybe it would all blow over. But when I looked outside and saw the army guy from before dragging something limp across the street, leaving a trail that looked way too red, I stopped hoping. I turned off the lights, pulled my phone out one last time, and typed, "You okay?" to everyone I cared about. Nobody answered. I waited. I listened. The world was holding its breath, and I did too, wondering if it would ever let go. If you ever wonder how fast everything can fall apart, it's about 3 hours. That's how long it took before I knew for sure this wasn't some Twitter hoax or a drill or even a messed up government test. 3 hours after I shoved the couch against the door, I got my answer. It started with a thump at the back of the house. Not the front, where I was staring out the peephole, but the back, where I always forgot to lock the tiny laundry room window. I nearly pissed myself. I held the bat so tight my hands went numb. For a second I stood there, just staring at my reflection in the oven glass, waiting for the sound again, hoping it was a raccoon. Instead, it was Kyle. Or it used to be Kyle. He pushed through the laundry door, hands bloody, mouth hanging open, making this horrible gurgling noise. I froze. He looked right at me, but it was like he didn't see me at all. I tried to yell, but my voice barely worked. "Kyle, man, are you—" He moved so fast, I barely got the bat up in time. He slammed into the kitchen table, knocking over the chairs, grabbing at me with fingers twisted at weird angles. I saw his eyes, and they were just gone, all white. Something was dripping from his mouth. I swung the bat hard and hit his arm. He didn't even flinch. We crashed into the fridge. I slammed the bat into his head. It sounded like hitting a bag of wet sand. He collapsed, but he didn't stop moving. His hands kept clawing at my ankles, even as his face bled on the linoleum. I ran, slipped, slammed the door to my room, and shoved my dresser against it. I locked the window. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my phone twice before I could even try to call 911. Of course, it didn't ring, just dead air. I sat in the dark for what felt like an hour, listening to the dragging sounds in the hallway, the scratching at the door, the moaning. I had this sick thought that maybe if I just waited long enough, it would stop, or I'd wake up, or the army would bust in and save me. Then the dragging stopped. I waited. I heard glass shatter in the living room. Someone was outside. I heard footsteps, slow and heavy, and a woman's voice yelling, "Hello? Anyone? Please?" And then a scream, raw and terrified. I peeked out the window, heart pounding. 2 people, my neighbor from across the street and a guy I didn't recognize, were fighting something off in the driveway. It was moving weird, all jerky, and when the porch light hit its face, I knew it wasn't just a sick person. The thing lunged at the neighbor, bit her right on the neck. She went down, screaming and kicking, but the thing didn't stop. The guy tried to pull it off, and it turned on him. I watched, frozen, as they all collapsed in a tangle of blood and thrashing limbs, and wanted to throw up. My phone buzzed. One last notification from the emergency alert system. Do not engage. Do not attempt to help infected individuals. Stay indoors. The world outside my window was changing. Cars were abandoned in the street. Sirens were fading away. Shadows moved behind every window. I could hear more thumps, more screams, more breaking glass. I packed a backpack with water, crackers, a flashlight, and my old inhaler. I shoved my dad's .38 from the closet into my hoodie pocket, even though I'd never fired it at anything but a Coke can. The air outside was thick and hot, like summer storm weather, even though it was only March. I knew I couldn't stay here. The house felt too small. The sounds outside were getting closer, louder. I climbed out my bedroom window, heart in my throat, and landed hard on the bushes below. The street was chaos. Doors slamming, people running, shadows lurching up and down the sidewalk. I tried to get to my car, but someone crashed into me, a guy from 3 houses down, covered in blood, eyes wild. He just grabbed me and screamed, "Run," so I did. I didn't even look back. We ran past bodies, past things moving in the dark, past cars with alarms blaring and headlights flickering. We ducked behind a hedge and waited, panting, while something snarled past us on all fours. I realized then that this wasn't just about being sick. People weren't dying. They were changing, fast, violent, and wrong. And if you hesitated, if you tried to help, you ended up like Kyle. I was bleeding, my jeans were torn, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely zip my bag. "What do we do?" the guy whispered. I stared down the street, watched as a shadow climbed onto a car hood and screamed into the sky. "We keep moving," I said. I didn't know where. I just knew we couldn't stop. The rules were gone, nobody was coming to save us, and everything that was supposed to be safe was already dead. If you ever want to know what it's like to lose yourself, it's not one big thing, it's a bunch of tiny ones, fast and sharp like paper cuts you barely notice until you're bleeding out. That first night, after I ran, I kept seeing Kyle's face every time I blinked. I kept thinking about his voice, all the dumb things he'd say when he played Call of Duty too loud, the way he used to eat cereal straight from the box. It was like my head was split down the middle. Half of me was fighting to survive, the other half was still at home trying to make breakfast, like this wasn't real. I followed the bloody guy, his name was Derek, I learned, down the alley. We picked up a couple more people, all of us moving fast, too scared to ask questions. We ducked into someone's backyard, shoved a trash can under the fence and crawled through. It was a mess, sirens in the distance, fires starting up somewhere. The smell of gasoline thick in the air. We kept off the main road, but every now and then I'd see shapes stumbling through the street, or someone's porch light flicker on and off. It felt like the whole world was stuck between two channels, one normal, one hell. Derek stopped at an old brick duplex. He banged on the door. "It's me, let me in." For a second I thought nobody would answer. Then an old guy cracked the door with a shotgun in his hand. He looked at us, covered in blood, shaking, eyes wild, and I thought he'd slam it in our faces. But he didn't. He just sighed and let us in. Inside was chaos, kids crying, a woman clutching a rosary, bags of chips and water piled on the table. Nobody asked who I was. They just let me sit. It felt almost safe. For about 5 minutes. I was starting to breathe again when the little girl in the corner started coughing. Everyone froze. The mom rushed her to the bathroom, but the rest of us looked at each other. Nobody said it out loud, but we all knew. The TV was on, but all it showed was that same red banner. Emergency broadcast, stay indoors, zombie virus confirmed. They finally said the word. It felt like swallowing a mouthful of broken glass. An argument broke out. Half the people wanted to throw the mom and her kid out, the other half wanted to wait, to see if she was just scared. The old guy, the one with the shotgun, said nothing. He just sat down in his chair, staring at the door. I heard someone in the kitchen praying. Derek paced the hall, looking for exits. I was glued to the window, watching for movement outside. A banging at the back door snapped everyone out of it. Someone had tried to lock it, but the handle rattled hard, like something was slamming against it over and over. The old guy raised his gun. The mom started screaming. I saw the little girl's shadow in the hall. Her head was twitching, her feet dragging. The coughing was deeper, almost a growl. It wasn't her anymore. The door burst open. Someone ran for the stairs. I grabbed the bat, the same one from my house, and started swinging. I hit something hard and heard bone crack. The old guy fired his shotgun, once, twice, filling the hall with thunder. I saw Derek try to pull the woman away, but she wouldn't let go of her kid. The little girl latched onto her, biting, her hands twisted and clawing. Blood went everywhere. I wanted to help, but the mom screamed at me to get out. We lost the room. I heard another window smash. Shadows were pouring in. I saw Derek fighting someone off with a lamp. I bolted for the stairs, slipping on blood, The old guy shoved me past him, yelling, "Go! Don't look back!" I heard the shotgun fire again, then nothing but chaos. Derek caught up with me on the second floor. He had a bite on his arm, but he was still moving. We found a window and kicked it open. The backyard was full of shadows, more of them, crawling, stumbling, screaming. No time. We jumped. I landed hard on the ground, pain shooting up my ankle, but I kept running. Derek was limping, blood pouring from his arm. We didn't speak, didn't look back. Reached the street. Houses were on fire, people were running. The world was gone. The only thing left was what you did next. I realized then there was no going back. You either did what you had to, or you died. Derek fell behind. He was slower, bleeding, breathing hard. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the sweat, the shaking. He knew what was coming. "You gotta go," he said. "Don't wait for me." I hesitated, just for a second. Then I kept running. I had to. That's the line, the one you cross, and there's no coming back. I left him. I left all of them. My hands were sticky with blood. My ankle felt broken. The sun was coming up, orange and cruel, over a world that didn't care. I walked, limping into the unknown. The city behind me was on fire. The world was changed, and so was I. There was nobody left to call, no one waiting for me at home. All I had was the road and whatever I was willing to do to survive. And as I disappeared into the ruins, I knew the rules were gone. There was no good or bad, there was only alive or dead. And I wasn't ready to be dead just yet.